I'll probably start very quickly by introducing myself. Most of you know me. I don't know how much you know about me, Thorun, but I'm Anna Liebel. I'm Ukrainian originally and living in Iceland since 3.5, almost 4 years ago. Before that, I was living in Sweden, where I got my education and worked in project management. And once I moved to Iceland, I was first on maternity leave, and then it was time to kick on that scary and exciting journey of running my own business. So that's what I've been doing in the past couple of years. Started officially just before COVID hit. So it was a roller coaster, but yeah, roller coasters have fun as well, not only scary parts. And what I do is, as a mind shifter, is mainly working with male leaders, quite often in tech industries. It can be startups, scale ups, or managerial positions in bigger corporations. And I help them reclaim their zone of genius, to find that way of leading in a sustainable way, um, in their own sustainable way, so that they don't burn out, they get out there with the best results for themselves, and they enjoy the ride as they go. Because leading other people and leading yourself is a roller coaster journey as well, just as entrepreneurship. And fun and scary as it might be, or scary as it might be, it should be fun as well, and we should have the pleasure of doing it and enjoy that. So yeah, I love this work a lot, and I'm very happy to have these masterclasses because that's my way of giving to the broader community, to those people who can't afford or don't have the capacity to work with me one-to-one or soon in small groups. And this is just the open space to get a bit of that magic and experience that I'm gathering from all the amazing people that I have the honor of working with. And today I will already mention the zone of genius. This will be one of the big parts that we'll be talking about in defining your sustainable leadership. I want you to find your way of sustainability in your leadership. And leadership can be of the others, but it can also be of yourself if you don't have the official leadership position within your work. We're all leading. We're leading people in our community, we're leading our family members, our friends, and as I said, always ourselves. And this is something that we should always start with. We know some people, right, Daniel, who are good at leadership, but not necessarily leading themselves. Leading others is good, but leading yourself is not that easy. And when that happens, when you are good at leading others but not yourself, it's good in the moment. It can be productive. It can really give results to the company you work with, to the employees, and so on. But it's not sustainable. You can't continue it in the long run. And this is what I want you to redefine today. How can you lead yourself and the others in a sustainable way? Meaning that it's gonna last in a good way, in a healthy way, today, in a year, and in a decade. And it doesn't mean that today we're cutting something in stone and you're not allowed to rechange it at all. No, it's about finding the philosophy, understanding the philosophy, and finding the tools of how you can adjust those things, understanding how you can reflect on what is going on with you as a leader and with you as a human in life in general, and knowing how to use those tools whenever life happens, your life situation changes, and you feel like you need to readjust. And today I'll actually give you an example of what I'm readjusting right now in one of the exercises that we'll be doing. So if we go to the page 3 of the workbook, which let's talk about the theory of the zone of genius. And I'll explain why it's important for the sustainability a bit later, or probably you'll understand it when we discuss it. To me, the zone of genius is the flow of living. It's that zone in which you feel like you're going through the life, staying on your course, no matter what happens on the outside. You have the strong inner core that helps you stay on course. I like to call it the inner compass that helps you navigate the stormy seas of life. That means that when on the boat, on the ship, the compass is working well, the GPS navigation system works well, no matter how the wind blows, no matter how the waves hit your boat, you know where you're going and you know how to get there. And this is what we're working on today, on your inner compass that will help you to know where I'm going and how can I get there, no matter what happens. And the past 3 years have been showing us that a lot of things can happen outside, right? And my experience is no matter what the external things are, no matter how much money you have been saving up, no matter how big your career is and those kind of things, the only things that matter in these situations, in the crisis situations that we've been going through one after another, with the pandemic, now with the war in Ukraine that triggers the economic crisis, right? There is a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are messing up with our plans, our life plans, and all those external things, they don't matter. In Ukraine, no matter how many money you've been saving up for your dream life, you can't use that money at the moment. I had on my podcast one of my team members, Anna Listunova, and she's been talking about postponing her life and preparing for her new life as a instead of going from employment to contractor or freelancer full time. And she just got out of her job, so she was supposed to finish her job on the 1st of or 28th of February in Ukraine, and start as a full-time freelancer on the 1st of March. And suddenly that was not happening. And for the first 2 months of the war, of the full-scale invasion, she's been postponing her life to when it's over, to when I feel better, and so on, until she realized that we don't know for how long the war is ongoing. We don't know whether, like, I don't know whether I'll survive all those missile hits and so on. And she just realized that she needs to start going back to those routines and trying to dream again, and that those dreams could be about tonight or tomorrow, and not about the whole life in front of you, like ahead of you, years to come. But that's the thing. We need to have this stronger inner core. And if it's stronger, when the crisis hits, it hits you off. You're getting off course. And that's normal. The thing about this inner core is about getting back on the course sooner and in a better way, a healthier way. One of the therapists I'm following, she's from Ukraine, and she was in Ukraine in the end of February. And sorry if I bring a lot of Ukraine examples up, because this is very close to my heart, and it has been affecting so many people, and to people who today are joining up from Ukraine, right? So you can relate to that a lot. So she was saying that I managed to get back to my practices, like daily practices of working on my inner state, on my energy levels, after 2 weeks. And that's quite a lot. I, living in Iceland, didn't manage that for the first 2 months. So there I see how she has come further on the journey of having this strong inner core than me, who needed more time to start taking care of myself, to get over the shame and the guilt of being in a safe space and having my family back home, all those kind of things that made me feel like I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve rest, and how I own something to someone. And this crisis situation showed me where I need to work on my inner core, where I still have the gaps in my sustainable leadership. So I hope you're getting this idea of the flow of living, and living in your zone of genius is really about feeling aligned and having the tools and knowing how to use those tools to actually stay on course or get back on course as soon as possible, and do it in a way that feels good to you, even if it feels weird to the others, even if it goes against the social norms of our communities and so on. You are the focus. And actually, this is something that I would like you to take as an intention for today's masterclass, that you really put yourself in the first place, that you think about yourself as the most important person in your life, and your priorities and your needs and your desires as the most important part for you. And only later come everyone else. And banal as it might be, you know this, can't pour from the empty cup. And I have experienced that firsthand in spring, when I was really pouring so much into volunteering, into working with the government here in Iceland, at the same time trying to keep my own company going, serving my current clients, having my commitments for the family. It took its toll. And I partly allowed myself, I did it very consciously because I had a deadline to that, when I would be moving to Portugal, because I knew that there I would start resetting. But that's the danger of it, when we don't realize how much more we're pouring out than what we are filling. And that's where burnouts come out or come to us. That's where we lose the joy and the pleasure of life and of our work, of relationships and communication with the others. So, yeah, I want you to put yourself first and practice that. Might be uncomfortable, especially in some societies, in some countries. It's a thing that is weird to do, but go through the discomfort because that's we all need it. Not only us as humans and as like personally us, but also our community. All right. So if I talk about the characteristics of the zone of genius, those are coming from the book The Big Leap of Kay Hendricks, who actually coined the zone of genius term. And the first thing that he's talking about is that you are focusing on your natural abilities instead of the learned capacities of yours or learned skills. That means that you know what you're naturally good at. You know what naturally gives you energy, no matter how much you do it, and you actually focus on those things. And zone of genius in this context is opposed to zone of excellence, where you're also good at what you're doing, but those are the learned skills. And that's where we see a lot of professionals nowadays. What happens there? You go against your nature, against using your natural skills, and that takes a lot of energy. I have been resisting my own natural skills for quite a while. I tell you, I kid you not, that's draining. And this is the area, the zone of excellence is the area where you're really good as an expert, you're really good as a professional, you're really good maybe as a family member even, but it's not how you would be in your natural self as a family member. And despite all the results and the excellence in the task completion, you are miserable. You hate what you're doing. You grow into this hatred or really feeling so much out of alignment that you feel like a huge fake and it takes so much energy from you. Partly it is about the imposter syndrome as well. When you're feeling like, yeah, I'll be figured out right now, right? That I'm not really good at this. And that's because you know how much effort it takes you to be good at what you're doing. And I'll give an example of my natural ability just to show you that it's not always super straightforward path. Just a moment. One of my natural abilities is to give safe space for people to open up. And for quite a long time, I thought it was a curse and not a gift because I really wanted to save the world. I really wanted to fix the problem that person would be sharing with me. And it just felt so tough because people were sharing things that I didn't have any power of changing, especially if it was somewhere in the past, some traumatic experiences. And that would happen time and again. People would comment like, I have no clue why I'm talking to you about this right now. I barely know you. I've never talked about this with anyone. Things like that would happen again and again. And it also, now I realize when I've analyzed it, it was quite often happening with men. And it just, the irony of coming full circle to working mainly with men nowadays, stepping into my natural power. But at first, that just felt really heavy. And once I shared it with one of my friends, and I said to him, you know, it's good that you're sharing this with me, but I don't know what to do with this information. I feel so bad because it's nothing I can help you with. And he looked at me. I really remember this moment. It was my student kitchen in my student housing back in Gothenburg in Sweden. And I turned back to him, said that, and he looked at me like I was the idiot, like the biggest idiot he's ever met. He's like, Anna, just sharing this with some human being after so many years of carrying it within myself is a huge burden off my shoulders. And that's the moment that switched it for me. I realized that this is a power, this is a gift. And by my avoiding or trying to stop people from sharing with me, I'm actually using so much of my energy against my nature because I'm naturally a curious person. I'm naturally a trustable person. And people want to open up for me. But if I always like sense, oh, they're just about to open up and I just mess up the relationship or I switch the topics or I make it awkward somehow, that was just draining. So once I've learned that this is a gift, and I started to learn how to own that gift and how to use it in a non-draining for myself way, I actually got so much more energy released that I was not wasting on really going against it. And that opened up more potential. And with that, I also started creating more impact or getting more impact in the world, because I would be giving this space to people who were ready to step into that space, because it's a very vulnerable space to be in. And it's a very unusual thing to share things that you've never talked about before. And it's a brave step of those people. And it was also so disrespectful of me to neglect this bravery while I was going against my natural abilities. So I hope you're trying to, you're grasping this, that we all have something that we're very good at. It happens very natural to us. And not always is those things that we are automatically getting pleasure from if we don't know how to step into that power. Maybe you already have some examples, then please feel free to share, raise your hand or drop in the chat. But I'll not put a pressure on that, because I know that it takes some time to process that, and sometimes you don't want to share it yet. So the second characteristic of Zone of Genius is the state of flow. You are in this space where you just lose track of time, right? You can do it day and night without having food, forgetting to go to the bathroom, and so on. And there's a caveat to this, which I'll return to in a moment. The third characteristic by Mr. Hendricks is you produce distinguished and unique results, because you're following your nature. It's only you who can follow your nature. And that means that it's only you who can produce these results. Like, be yourself, everyone else is taken. That's about this. You produce results that are really good. No one else can replicate them in an authentic way, at least, and sustainable. And here is the thing, the fourth characteristic. It's not always what you love doing or that you're naturally gifted at. And that goes back to the example that I've just given to you. When I didn't know how to step into that power, where I didn't have the tools to do it in a sustainable and not draining for me way, I couldn't say that I love what I'm doing. I couldn't say that I love creating this safe space for people to open up in. And also, this is part of the caveat that I want to talk about in the state of flow. Mr. Hendricks, when talking about the state of flow, says that the goal is to spend at least 90% of our awake time in the state of flow. And from my experience, a lot of people get disconnected or discouraged here. Like, oh yeah, but I have so many commitments with my family, with my community, with my work, and so on. There's no way for me to redesign my life so that 90% of my time I'm doing what I absolutely love and what I'm naturally gifted at. So why would I even try? And for me, it's about this inner compass that maybe you don't like going eastwards, but if you know that for this period of time, or for this length of this many nautical miles, I need to go eastwards to get to my goal, to stay on my course, I'm fine with going eastwards. And that's the same with our daily life, with our commitments. When you're in the zone of genius for truly your on your course, you're ready to do those course chores that might not be the most yippee for you, energizing, but you know that they are part of your journey. You know that they bring you closer to your goal. You know that they help you to stay on course. Like for me, owning a business, of course, there are a lot of tasks involved in that that I would love skipping. And some of them I have already outsourced or delegated, like podcast editing, for example, or creating graphics. I like fiddling with graphics, but they look like you got into the Canva for the first time ever and you just played with everything together. So yeah, I can spend time on that and I maybe even get the joy out of it, but it's not going to be the most optimal time spent, and also not the best result because I'm not naturally gifted at that. So those things I managed to outsource or delegate within my team, but then there are things that I feel like I need to do, and they're not part of my nature or natural abilities, but they're important for me to be able to serve my clients. No one can do the strategic decisions of my business, of what to invest in, which coach or teacher to work with, what kind of programs to create, and how to serve my clients, and so on. Those are the things that are my responsibility. And sometimes they're tough for me, but sometimes they're so scary. And that responsibility is, it's exciting, but it's also scary because I need to hold the results of that. And that's the thing, those scary moments I need to go through. And I can't say that I'm enjoying the process, but I've learned the joy of being on the other side of it and knowing that this is part of my contributing to the world, my serving my clients in the better way, that I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to say the discomfort. I think many of you can relate to the training example when you don't feel like going to gym, maybe, and it's a bit of a suffering. But if you have this goal of long-term health of yours, and you know that every visit to the gym contributes to you staying healthy and fit longer, then you're more ready to do this. You're more ready to go through this discomfort of going to the gym and lifting those weights or getting on the treadmill and so on. So this is the power of knowing your zone of genius and really getting the super well calibrated with your inner compass. That even the tough or mundane things are easier to do. And as I said, it doesn't have to be in the flow, but it's still working in an easier way. Any questions, reflections so far? Or you're with me, you're sold on the idea of the zone of genius. How is it going?
I'm with you. I think I also have some kind of internal dialogue or monologue, just following your thoughts and insights. But yeah, it resonates pretty much. What I can reflect on is that I might consider myself a pretty lucky person because I nearly never had this kind of, so I mostly been working as a professional, more or less, in what you call zone of genius. Not 100%, but and I never had this. I never had this question why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's been some time ago when I was already like quite adult that I realized that not everyone is like that, that it is quite a privilege. And then I forgot about it, and now you reminded me that this is actually could be a privilege. So I'm happy to have one.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Natasha. And I want to pay your attention that you said that you're lucky. And sure, there is some luck involved in that, right? That we get on our natural path, that maybe we're guided by whatever you would call it, the wisdom, the universe, the higher power, the God. But it's a lot of you taking action. And I mean, I've known you for a long time, right? With your moves, both career-wise and country-wise, and going to extracurricular activities with the projects and so on. You have been putting so much action, putting so much effort. So please do not neglect that part. And I just want you to uh, pay attention to that, because it's a lot of your responsibility in this, in a powerful way. So I just don't want you to give all your power away to luck, but also just take some credit for staying on that course as well.
Actually, you're right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Any insights or reflections? All right. Lyubov saying that she's gonna go to gym following her compass. That's great to hear. So you could catch the rest on the replay. Thanks for joining. All right, let's go to some more actionable parts. And as I explained to you today, I'm going to guide you through a process of defining your sustainability. And this word is used so much, right? It's a buzzword these days, but I still haven't found any better word so far that would talk about this long-term part of success, of leadership, of your life. And that's what I want for you. I want you to find this inner compass that is there with you till the day you die. And of course, you need to sometimes recalibrate it and change some things in it, maybe upgrade the software or stuff like that, change some parts. But that compass is there with you for a long time. And for this definition, we'll do two practices today. First of them is defining your values. And for that, I'll define values as the set of characteristics that define or describe the behaviors of that ultimate best version of yourself. We all have heard the term values in the business or corporate environment where companies have their company values, right? And quite often people are tired of that term because they have done this exercise of defining the values. Everyone is participating in this half-day workshop with a lot of sticky notes, a lot of discussions, and then kind of narrowing it down to some list that feels like everyone is on board with that and so on. And then it's put somewhere like in the storage of documentation or virtually or somewhere in the paper. Maybe there is some poster somewhere in the office with those values. And then we're not acting upon that. We're not using them. We don't know what it means in practice and in everyday life. And next time we go back to those values is at the next workshop, which is like half a year or a year ahead, when it's time to review them again. In that case, values are not so helpful. What we are talking about here is creating a set of values that you can use as this part of the inner compass on a daily basis. Every hour, every interaction of yours, every action of yours. And for that, it has to be simple. Of course, you can create a poem about your values and recite it for yourself whenever you need to check with your compass. But the challenge or the risk is that you will not use it. Our brain is smart but lazy. And with this exercise, we want to make it as easy, as simple for it as possible, so that it's easy to check with, am I acting as the best version of myself? If not, where is the misalignment and what can I do to actually get back on course? So I hope you have some pen and paper or a notepad open on your computer so that we can do some brainstorming right now. In the workbook on page 6, 6 and 7, you see a lot of words, several hundred of words that are definitions, or not definitions, but value words, some suggestions for that. And I want you to browse through the lists and write down the things or highlight the things that resonate with you. Some things that describe that ultimate best version of Daniel, Natasha, Thorum, Harut. What would those characteristics of ultimate best version of you be? And I'll give you a minute or so to just write down at least some so that we have something to work with. And by no means it will be done today, probably, but I want you to start with that so that at least your brain is triggered. And even if you don't sit down after the masterclass and finish this exercise, in the subconsciousness there, the process are going. the value words can be verbs, nouns, adjectives, can be a short phrase. And what I'm usually saying that you can be creative and have fun in this process. You can come up with your own words or redefine what some word means. I really love this example of one of my early clients who had word sparkling as her value word. And for her, it was about bringing the energy in the room, coming in, the party starts, and that she had this visual of her childhood when she always liked some sparkling clothes, and how cheerful and fearful she was and curious she was as a kid. She wanted to bring that back into her life, into her everyday actions. So this word was a reminder to her of how she wants to be. One of my words is beautiful, and it's a lot about the self-care and leading with my own way. It's about working on my mindset and on my energy levels, that I'm not self-critical. Because if I look in the mirror and I'm criticizing myself, it means that I haven't done my homework. And I need to go back to the basics and review where have I not been refilling my cup, in which area I have a gap. Because if I'm criticizing myself, it means that I'm not bringing my best self to the people around me. And I know that you, Daniel, have done this exercise with me before, so it will be interesting to see whether you feel like it's still very relevant for you, your three, or something else can come up. And I mentioned three because this is our goal. Once you have done the list, where you feel like, okay, it's quite a lot of things here to work with, we want to get down to 3 words. And those can be synonyms. So what I am suggesting usually is that you look at all your list, count how many words you have there, and you halve it, and then you halve and you halve until you come down to 3. And how to halve, it's not only just throwing away words, but sometimes you feel like some words are synonymous, or one is the cause and the other one is the effect, and then you can put the cause in, and you know that when this is secured and when that happens in my life, then the effect will also naturally take place. It can be that you see some words that are overlapping but not completely, like one is not representing the other. Then you can think about the umbrella term for those. How beautiful was for me, it was a new word that was not an original list, but when I thought about all the things that I put there in my list, I felt like, yeah, when I feel beautiful, it means that I've ticked all these boxes. So as I said, this is a creative process that you can have fun with and come up with words that are meaningful to you, not necessarily classical value words. So once you have 3, I want you to start using it on a daily basis. And for that, I want you to put reminders. But before we go into that task, would you want to share how your process here is? Daniel, maybe you can start, given that you have done this before.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the very first time, it was very early on when we got to know each other, and the words, they just came to me. I didn't really read the list; they just came to me, and that would be learning, laughing, and loving. And the learning part is about self-development and me being a curious person who, you know, wants to learn new things. The laughing part is about the enjoyment and, you know, not just humor, but just, you know, the light-hearted part of life. And loving is about, I think, kindness and caring, or surrounding ourselves with other people who care, but also for me, actually, you know, loving what I'm doing as well. So that's the 3, all starting with an L. And so it was easy to come up with them. bloody difficult to live them on a daily basis. I've had them for over a year, I think, and yeah, more than a year, and I glide off that path. But I do find that it can be very helpful as a guideline, right? Because we slip back into our old ways quite naturally. But you know, to have something simple, but to implement that on a daily basis, I haven't got as far as to always manage that. But it's definitely it's a brilliant idea, and it, you know, boils it down to something very manageable.
Congratulations, you're human, Daniel. With not having that all figured out. Otherwise, it could be a boring life for the rest of your years. But hey, I actually would like to have two follow-up questions here. The first one, do you feel like any of them is usually harder to live through on a daily basis than the others, or is it just depending on the day of the week, phase of life?
Well, learning's easy because, right, you open your eyes. We learn on a daily basis, but you know, automatically, I find if we're just open to it, it falls upon us, you know, and I don't know, laughing, that part is quite easy. The loving, being a kind person and surrounding ourselves with other sort of the same kinds, or loving what we're doing, that's the difficult one. The one that, you know, when we fulfilled with that feeling of warmth inside, you know, that can be about interpersonal interaction or interacting with something. Like for me, it's music that also really fills me with that. There's something in that fills me, you know, and that's difficult to get to, you know, to get to that. So the other two
because of the
naturally.
other commitments and life happening, or why is it difficult?
Yeah, sure. Sure, and they aren't necessarily the kind of things you can easily cash in on or make a career out of. You know, so I find, you know, I haven't taken that leap, for example, into full-time music, for example, which I've always kind of like, it's given me a fulfillment that nothing else has, from, you know, doing wise, really.
And I think it's important here to emphasize that there is so much narrative nowadays about find what you love doing and you'll not have to work any single day in your life and all that. And partly yes, but partly fuck it. Excuse my French. My husband, I think, is a great example. He's in academia. He's the assistant professor, so he's teaching kids at school and doing research, and he has so many creative hobbies. He's baking sourdough bread. He started sewing. He has his sports, and he's quite good at that. And photography, he's getting published, and those kind of things. But when people joke about that, oh, you should be earning money on this and stuff, and he's like, no, I don't want to. I want to have it for myself, to do it when I want, to do it at the pace I want, in the way I want. I don't want anyone to frame me and put this pressure on myself to earn on it. And that can be also part of your zone of genius, that you have something that brings you money and pays your bills. And ideally, you don't hate it, right? But that just, your motivation to do it is not because that's your natural abilities or within your zone of genius, but because it creates space for you. It gives you energy to pursue your hobbies, to work on them without any monetary pressure on that. So I think it's very important to add this side of the aspect. I'm not of this narrative. I'm not talking about changing the narrative, but I feel like so many of us are pressured into like, oh yeah, I like drawing. I need to learn how to paint and sell my paintings and like be the famous one, be exhibited and so on. Bullshit. If you come to the empty canvas and try to create a masterpiece because you need to sell it, because you need to put bread on your plate, how much enjoyable will it be? So I really want to enrich in this conversation and add it as another question. Do I want to earn money on this or not? Because maybe, yeah, go ahead, Dash.
No, I just wanted to say that I also when you turn your hobby into your work, it often happens that you do anything around a part of the part that you really love. For example, if I like baking and I want to make it my job, like in real life, I would do much more for organization and logistics and sales and taxes and reports and whatever, and then like 20% of baking. This is not fun at all.
Yeah.
Because everything.
Exactly. And that's partly what I at the beginning felt about having business and doing coaching and mind shifting as my full-time job. Because I felt like, oh, now I need to create the content, now I need to do the admin stuff, now I need to lead the team, now I need to do the financial reporting and yada, yada, yada. But I found my way to do it because it just, I get the kick of it, and I don't like, nowadays I don't mind most of those things. Some things I still procrastinate with. Hello, I'm human. But a lot of that is still part of of me living in the flow of my living, or like living in my zone of genius. But that's the thing, just as you said, Natasha, sometimes it just takes all the joy away because there are so many aspects suddenly that need to happen for this hobby to bring money in. So I think it's very important for us to be honest with ourselves. That if it's like me who wants to do it full time and ready to go through the struggles of sometimes having too little of that, especially in the beginning, fine. But if it's not your path, don't ever feel pressured or to go on that path if that kills the joy of that thing, of that activity. Daniel, I had another question to you. So we talked about which ones are harder or easier. No, I forgot it now. Maybe I remember and I'll ask you again, because I felt like it would be an interesting part of the conversation. Let's see. Here I also want to mention that, as I said to you earlier, I am redoing some things in my life, and that's following this summer when I worked with a couple of different coaches and therapists, partly to recover after the events of earlier this year back in Ukraine, but also because I felt that the tools that I was having were not giving me the answers and not guiding me in the right way at the phase, at the stage where I was personally and with my business. And what came up a lot was that I need to relax, I need to surrender, I need to stop fighting. And my first reactions in those conversations in the coaching sessions, when those words would come up, would be like, yeah, but that's against my nature. I am the fighter. I love challenges. I love to get out of my comfort zone. I sometimes talking about that a couple of years ago, my husband would be laughing at me, say like, yeah, if I want to get you into anything, I just need to call it challenge and you're on board. Because I would be like, challenge accepted. And I just really loved this whole struggle of like personal development has to be tough in the beginning or so. But heck, I've been doing it for over a decade now. And when I had those conversations with therapists and coaches, I realized how damn tired I am of that. And I do want to surrender. I do want to allow more guidance from the universe in my life. I don't mind having responsibility for my life, but I don't want to try to be in control of the things that are not in my control. And that's my focus nowadays, to learn how to do it. And with that in mind, I realized that one of my value words, which is unstoppable, doesn't feel true anymore, or it derails me from this path that I'm trying to get onto now. Because unstoppable for me was about like, it's natural to have fears and it's okay to have fears, but as long as I know what my goal is and what my dreams are, I'm continuing, I'm on that journey, because so that my fears don't stop me. But I feel like there is, in this word right now, to me, there is a bit too much fighting, too much toughness. And I want to change that. So now I'm actually in the process of deciding which word I take as the value word instead of beautiful, or instead of unstoppable, to have that as a guidance for myself. How do I surrender? How do I still own my power and take responsibility for my actions in my life without going overboard with that and draining myself on that? So this is the example of to show that it can change. We have different life phases. We keep developing, hopefully, and that means that sometimes words don't feel relevant anymore, and it's okay to change them. Yes, Daniel.
Yeah, one question. Now that you're back at the what's natural thing again, it's something that poses a bit of a question that nature nurture. What's behavioural, what's learned behaviour, and what is natural or characteristics. So we're not just. So if we're doing that self inventory, are we going? Is it really true to us, or have we just learnt it or picked it up along the way? What? That's the thing. To try and, I don't know. It's not just about analysing, is it? What would you say about that? It's about feeling somehow, isn't it?
Funny that you mentioned that. I had a therapy session yesterday morning, and that's what we discussed. Started talking about my relationships to my parents, and she started asking me, like, you always sound so adult, even if you talk about yourself as a little girl towards your parents. When did you become this adult? Like, what event, what phase of your development got you there? And I couldn't remember myself as not adult. All my memories going back to my kindergarten age, they were all about me being independent, about me being more adult, behaving more adult than my age is, and so on. And I quite often took pride of that because my parents did that. And now I'm realizing that I've never had a childhood. I've never been a child. I stole it from myself, or maybe my environment, my nurture stole it from myself. And this is something very fresh that I'm still processing, but that's the thing. I need to learn to take as a child from this world, from people around me, not just give or not just take as an adult on a kind of equal level. To process that and to relearn to learn some things now as an adult, I need to go back to the child position in a bit and be a child to learn something. And yesterday with the therapist, we discussed it, that she was like, you have a 3-year-old at home. You're in a perfect position. You can learn from her. And this is a blessing for me right now, that I can actually learn from Maya to discover this world, to learn about yourself in the way that 3-year-old does, to learn to express myself as a 3-year-old does. And talking about what you said about the feelings or intellectual, that was my insight yesterday in the session, that the therapist would ask me, like, how do you feel now, or what comes in your body when we discuss this? And I had the answers, but I realized that they come from here, from my head. They were not my feelings. I had intellectually the right, quote unquote, answers for how I'm supposed to feel in this moment of this conversation. And I've been working with my feelings for a while already. I'm using emotional wheel and those kind of things. But I realized that I've been doing it all with my damn head. And when I really shut up and take time to give the answer about my feelings, quite often I'm numb. My body is not telling me anything. While in truth, it's actually telling me a lot, I'm sure, but I haven't been listening for long enough, so it's not doing it loud enough. So this is the transformation I'm going through right now, to learn how to actually tap into that part of me, because there is so much in there. And I'm an empath. I feel other people across distances, geographical distances. But why the hell am I not feeling myself enough? And through all this intellectual work, I have learned to, or I have tapped into some feelings of the spectrum, like gratitude. I definitely feel it. I don't just know, I feel gratitude, love, some others. But hundreds of shades on the spectrum are not available for me to me at the moment, because of probably nurture mainly. And it's uncomfortable, it's scary to go into there, especially because I am the one who's supposed to know it, right? Because I'm working with this with my clients and blah blah. But if someone doesn't resonate with that, I'm not the person for them. If someone wants to be on this journey with me, then welcome. And yeah, that's an iterative process. Sometimes it goes back, sometimes it goes forward. Take it as a dance, and maybe you'll have fun on it. Was it too philosophical, or did it answer your question?
No, it's fantastic, because I recognize your description of you fits in on the way, you know, I learned and was, you know, due to you know, loads of different circumstances that I've been able to identify later on in life, you know, intellectually. But yeah, it's very much the same for me, you know. Another thing that resonates is, I think that you're very open and transparent about your own process, and I think, you know, that nobody has all the answers, and yet so many people run around pretending they do. Many leaders definitely think it's a weakness if we, you know, show that we don't know things, or that, and then we're shutting off to development. And that, it's also, I think, it doesn't build trust either. You know, to be open about that we're in continuous development, even if we work within leadership. I think that's being true. You know, that creates credibility. Doesn't diminish it at all.
Thanks. Well, I think first and foremost, when you're pretending to have all the answers, you're locking yourself. Because once you have learned something, when you realize it, if you're brave enough to accept it to yourself, what do? If you have been building this authority, I know all, and this is the truth, period, then you're locked with a new truth or updated true version of the truth for yourself. You can't bring it out, because then what happens to your authority? So I feel like this is just much, like the way I'm doing it is much more honest, but also a sustainable way of doing that, because I'm keeping this open to myself to say, hey, I've been wrong, or now I have more information or more experience, and here's what my learning is at the moment. It might change in a year as well. We'll see. But this is how it works right now. And if that resonates, take it, make your spin of it, use it how you feel like. That's life. So a little action point once you have decided about your three, and I know that you, Daniel, have them. How about you, Natasha? Do you feel like this process is clear? Where are you?
Now this process is very useful for sure. I think I cheated a little bit on a task, because first I guess those are different lists to me, like real values that are already integrated in my life, and then you mentioned values that would reflect a better version of me. So I created two lists, but to be honest, I've been mostly focused on the first list, because I think this is a unique moment when, like, again, in the in past months, I've been thinking a lot about what are my values, what I'm standing for, and so on. You know, like a very different kind of reflections were, and I felt that I have kind of very defined set of ABC, like very firm, not fluid, nothing, everything very clear to me, but I couldn't actually name it. So I just take this chance finally trying to write it down, because I don't think I will do it outside of this workshop, honestly, ever in my life. Because, you know, we always have other stuff to do, other priorities, me, for example. So I tried to take this chance and just, you know, so I listed them here, and then talking about those that I think that are important, I would like them to become part of me, but I don't feel they are. I listed compassion, assertiveness, and courage. And yes, this is I've been going looking a little bit through the workbook, so I got the idea that we have to see them frequently, not to forget about them. And sometimes I even want to have some kind of tattoo, but then I think this is a bit too cheesy. But
Why?
I agree with this because, well, you can remove tattoo as well, because as you can see, some words might be less actual over the time. But yeah, we have technologies that remove tattoos.
You also have a lot of space on your body to put the next
True.
version there.
True. Yeah,
I
so to
really,
sum it up, I'm really grateful for having this moment, to force myself at least to list what I think my values, and I think I will get back to it.
yeah, well, kudos to you for doing this work and finding this time for yourself and making it making the space in the calendar for yourself to work on this. And yeah, if you need any support with crystallizing the list, just let me know afterwards. I'll be more than happy to guide you further on that.
Okay.
And what you said about the reminders is the next part. Once you have your 3, it's about really ingraining them into your psyche, into everything you are, who you are, and how you are. And on page 8 of the workbook, I give some suggestions from me, my mentors and tutors, teachers, and also for my clients, what you can do to put those, like, have those reminders. One of the easiest is to actually put alarms on your phone that ring, and the label is those 3 words, or 3 alarms per day, 1 for each word, for example. And you just pause in the moment and you just do this 1-second reflection. Am I XYZ right now in whatever I'm doing? And if not, how can I be more of that? And I think this is also an interesting thing for you, Natasha, to see how those 2 lists can merge or get closer to each other, because you don't always want to, like, I don't want you to get into this rat race of like, okay, so what's the next level of me, that you never reach. It's more about how I can be more of this. Like, one of my words is present, for example. And it's not about like, okay, there is a moment in my life when I suddenly become 100% present in every second of my life, of my awake time. No, I'm a human. And it will be more or less. And that's the thing. It's just a checkpoint for me. Like, okay, how can I be more present in the moment? Is that something that I have been catching myself on that I haven't been in the past couple of days? And what does it mean? Am I now living more in the past, in the future? Of course, when the full-scale invasion happened, I was living a lot in the future, imagining a future of something happening to my parents, for example. So that's the thing. How can I bring myself back to now and work with what I have now? That hasn't happened yet. And to avoid that happening, what is in my control? What can I do? And then I do that in the present. I let go of the rest and then work with what I have power of changing right now. So this is the scale, right? It's not about like switch on off. And once it's on once, it has to be on forever. Otherwise, it's not your value or something like this. No, it's a process. And we need to be gentle and kind to ourselves. I feel like so much of this personal development work is filled with this pressure. I mean, life is tough. Why, for God's sake, do we need to make it tougher for ourselves in the work that should give us energy, should make us better, should make us more loving this life? This is something that I also want to bring into this process for you, because that's definitely something I've been doing with myself in the past several months, bringing more kindness to myself. As this therapist with whom I'm working is saying, be that kind, loving mom to yourself. And I've been doing that now during the travels. Sometimes when I would be starting to criticize myself, put pressure on myself, I'd be like, stop, Anna. So how can you be this loving, kind mom to yourself? And I would imagine that, and I would be talking to myself in my head, doing those things, or even like embracing myself and doing those things, because it's enough of making it hard for ourselves. Enough. We can bring more life to this world by first and foremost bringing more life to ourselves, from ourselves. I think this is one of those secrets to filling our cup, to actually fill it with love from ourselves. So back to the reminders. Alarms on your phone is one of them. The client who has sparkling as her value word, I'm staying in touch with her, and she said that she's been having those alarms and she always, like, she started at some point when she's alone, when the alarm goes off, she goes like, and she kind of just makes this sparkle around her, and it was just her way of just being a bit more childish, those, like, bringing more of that energy into her daily life. So she would be like working on her spreadsheets, she's working with like property, financials and stuff like that, working in those super complicated documents, and then the alarm goes off and she's like and at some point her husband caught her on this alarm, and he was like, what is this on your phone? Why is it buzzing? Why is it saying sparkling? And she was a bit shy, and then she would explain to him what it meant. And he loved this idea. He started doing it with her when he hears her alarm nowadays. So now it's like two idiots just doing like but that's the thing. You can bring that energy into your life. And you can use the technology to help you with that. Sticky notes, simple but very effective tool. The caveat to it, if you put a sticky note on your screen, move it around every day, because otherwise your brain just blacks it out. We're used to our environment being the same, and then it's not important information. So the sticky note needs to move around. Desktop background. As my desktop background, I have my vision board for this year. It has the color scheme, it has the pictures, it has some words and numbers that remind me of what I want to achieve in this year. So this is one of the things that you can do as well. Super easy to do with the Canva. Let me know if you want me to share the template for putting some pictures together. Happy to do so. You can use a drawing, put it on somewhere around your desk or on the fridge or whatever. It can be your own drawing, it can be some of your kids, or you ask someone else to draw something that illustrates those value words for you. The one that I like, and a lot of people get like, oh, wow, really, I can use it, is the password. All my passwords mean something to me. And it doesn't mean that it has to be a stupid, like, easy to hack kind of combination. But even if it's numbers, that's numbers that actually have meaning for me with my life. Or it's a long phrase, I actually make my password super long just because I want to type this focus of mine. What is my focus at the moment? And then I type it several times per day. And it keeps sending some signals for our brain of what we want to be, how we want to be, and so on. So we have a little bit of time left, and I want to quickly go in the other one. We've already started tapping into that. But the second practice that I want you to invest some time in is identifying your gifts, those natural gifts of yours. And here, the important point for me to bring across is that they are within you anyways. They're given to you. And by resisting to use them, you're actually wasting a lot of your energy. Just as I said with Maya, creating this safe space for people to open up. When I was resisting that, it was a huge waste of my energy. So I wanted to figure them out and learn to use them. And that will bring more joy, more sense of fulfillment, and also generate much more energy in your life that you can use for creating the impact that you want for yourself and the others. And if you're not sure what the hell your natural gifts are, I, on page 10 of the workbook, put some of the questions that can help you guide. Some of them I'm sure you've heard, like what did you like to do as a kid? Or what gets you in a state of flow that you lose track of time and forget to eat and go to the bathroom? But then some of them I've added as well that you probably haven't seen before. What do you see other people doing or not doing and think, how hard can that be? That probably means that this is much more natural to you than to most people around you. Look at that. Observe yourself and your thoughts and think, when do I ask this question? When do I reflect that way? The other thing could be when you feel like you're sticking out, you're different from people around you. That can again be a hint about your natural gifts. And another one could be as well, like what people come to you to ask for a piece of advice or to get your expertise on. And that again can be something like, oh my God, again, I want to get away from this topic. And that's one of the things that's the thing that I'm working with one of my clients with. He's super good in sales. And he's like, I'm so fed up with sales. I really want to get into brand building and really building the strategy for creating the brand that people will want to follow, they will want to be a part of it, they will want to be associated with it. And he's good with that as well. But just because he's so brilliant with sales, people come to him with assignments in that area. And I'm guiding him in that process of finding how you can actually merge those two and how can you use the sales knowledge of yours and expertise in the brand building, because brand is about selling the idea, selling the vision, selling it in visuals and so on. So how can you use your sales expertise in that and explain to potential clients who come with like, okay, we want you to be our chief sales officer or whatever it is, how to explain to them like that's not what you need at the moment. This is what you want. And sales is only a small part of it. But that's the thing, you don't need to scrap it. You can always use this experience, and especially if it comes naturally to you, it's so much easier to use it, and it's so much easier to be an amazing expert that is just unique, right? Because no one can do this part like you do and connect it to your other experiences like you do. Do you have any questions or reflections on this?
I think those are really good questions to come back. I think it's like you peel layer by layer. You can't answer all of them at once, and definitely some insights come after a longer time.
It is a process, and I'll share some secret information with you. I have been talking in the promotion of this masterclass that this is the last time I do it in this format. And as much as I love it, I feel like a lot of these practices that I'm giving require some time. And I want to give my participants this time with me so that I stay on this journey and guide. So from December, I have 3 topics, that 3 masterclasses. So now I'm doing them in the autumn last time, 1 each month. And from December, I'm start running this as the bit more long-term program. I still have not decided I'm going between 1 week and 3 weeks. I thought of daily tasks for a week, but I think it will be too intense as well, and it's good to give time. So maybe it will be 2 or 3 week program where I'm dropping this information bit by bit, so it's not so overwhelming and so much to rethink and review at the same time. And we're doing it step by step and guiding each other, or like I'm guiding you, but also you help each other in this process, because I love this format. I've been participating in a lot of courses with this format, and the chat is usually quite a huge part of development journey and figuring out, because when someone is sending their homework and sharing their insights or their challenges, it brings new thoughts to me. It gives me some, like, sparks some ideas, and it helps on this journey. So I'm looking forward to prepare it and do it from December on. But for now, I just really want to wrap it up this way. Just felt right to me. Thanks, Natasha, for the feedback. And again, if you come to any insights, or you feel like you're getting stuck with those questions or so, just feel free to write to me. You'll have access to me on LinkedIn and other channels, so use them. And also, with this particular task with finding your gifts, if you feel like you're getting stuck, or we all have blind spots, right? Especially when it's something natural to us. It's sometimes hard to spot it. It's good to just ask people around. I've been doing it a lot. at some stages of my development with my husband, asking him like, tell me 5 things I'm good at, or tell me 5 things you appreciate in me. And then I would go to a friend of mine and say, well, like, what's so special about me? Why are we hanging out together? And then do the same with the colleagues. Just getting those pieces of puzzle and thinking like, yeah, true, this is something that they have all mentioned. So maybe there's something in that. So use the collective intelligence for these tasks as well.
Yes.
Daniel, any thoughts, reflections on your side?
No, I think those the identifying gifts, those questions are good, are good tools for trying to find them. And I think the other suggestion, collective intelligence. I think that one of the things that I've been privileged in having is people around me who've believed in me more than I believed in myself, and kind of like identified things and pushed me on and said, why shouldn't you do that? You're good at that, So that's definitely a good tool, to use. And this, then again, I've heard this before, but it's been very interesting, and I've still learned new things from participating again in this
Yeah, you're probably the most loyal of my masterclass attendees, and you've
possibly
been in this topic. Go ahead.
Possibly the slowest learner as well,
We're all taking it at our pace, as long as you keep learning. So guys, both you still here with me live and those who are watching in replay, I just want to let you know there is opportunity to continue this one-to-one with me. I usually suggest the intensive, which is a 45-minute call to dive deeper into both this information, but also the answers to quite an extensive questionnaire that some people say that just the questionnaire and sitting down with those questions, making time for that is worth the investment in the whole intensive. And you have a link to it in the on the last page of the workbook. But this morning, I just decided that for this masterclass, I actually want to make a discount for this intensive. So I've created a new offer with an updated price, and I'll drop this link to you along with the recording in the email once the recording is ready and uploaded. So please use that one. That will be valid for a couple of days now. And yeah, if you want to dig deeper into this topic and have it in a live conversation, then please book the intensive and let's mind shift together.
Thank you. It was
Thanks
a
so
pleasure
much.
Thank you
to
very
join
much.
today. Thank you.
I'm staying here. If you have any more questions or reflection, I will stop the recording, but yeah, I'm still here.